Is really twofold. Initially we did a lot of work for companies, particularly investors going into Africa, but also a lot of work for possibly more on the arbitration stage in that context for national, for instance, oil companies, African oil companies, and also a number of governments, and that was more in relation to the arbitration business. But the type of advice that we provide is now considerably geared towards investors, be it investors into Africa or investors that run into problems when in Africa, and in that context we would advise them on the litigation side of things. So it's mixed. We do advise governments, we do advise investors, but it is true that our main clients, so to speak, are actually more on the investors' side. Well, Shearman Sterling have, particularly through their arbitration practice, have got a sort of long history of advising governments and national companies in certain African states in the context of arbitration and disputes as well. And that's actually extremely relevant in Africa because for investors, because something that needs to be borne in mind is that a lot of these African economies although free market economies, see a lot of involvement from the state, and the state plays a considerable role in those countries at the economic level. And that's particularly relevant for investors, because investors such as Chinese investors who will, for instance, do infrastructure projects or large energy projects or mine will actually enter into specific agreements with the state in order to protect their interests. And it's something that we're particularly familiar with because of the experience that we've gained advising governments in that context. It's interesting to see how they've evolved from actually some smaller investments. It's particularly relevant in the mining industry, for instance, where we've seen them investing from smaller projects into much larger ones, and then moved from just purely mining projects into the infrastructure sector and integrated projects where they actually develop both the power side of things, railways, and as well mining operations. And that's something which Western firms had done previously, and where we see a lot more Chinese players. The situation where we considered that Chinese players would only invest or would only contribute to those projects as part of the civil works, for instance, has now moved to a situation where there are more strategic investors, not just constructing things, but actually owning part of these projects. When a Chinese client comes to us to hire our services to assist them in Africa, the one thing that they know that they will get is actually someone who's going to go with them in Africa and assist them in the negotiation with the government officials, and the various private or public parties that they'll have to deal with. The reason why that's the case is because Africa for us is not just a place on the map where we provide in relation to which we provide legal advice from our office in London or Beijing or Paris. It's actually somewhere where we go regularly. Every month we're there, and we know the officials, we know the sort of relevant parties, and so we can assist on the ground our clients when they seek to invest in these countries. Because of the fact that we keep operating in these countries regardless of the number of transactions that we're working on, we certainly can assist our clients once they've sort of developed their project, even when it's successful, for instance, just to assist them making sure that the money that they've invested in that country and the dividends that are produced sort of come out of these countries and can return to China. That's one of the aspects on which we can work, assisting them in also on selling the projects that they've developed, and also assisting them in the few cases where things may become a little more challenging. They may run into problems, and maybe some dispute resolution mechanism will have to be enforced, maybe sometimes arbitration proceedings will have to be taken, and it's definitely the sort of thing that our firm does, and does well, and has been doing for a great many years now.